So I'm going to be 90 on April 28th, and I've managed to not have any birthday parties ever. And my kids just said, okay, we're not listening to you. We're going to have a party. It's not really a party, but so on a week from Sunday, they booked the Mark Hummel Blues Band for the bar. Usually, if the weather's right, what I try to do is the night before go to the beach and camp on the beach, so I wake up on my birthday at sunrise. I used to work on the dock. I worked for a shipwright as a carpenter when I was 18 at the end of Hyde Street. And that was where, before the Golden Gate Bridge, that was where the ferry left to go to Marin County. And in those days, Ghirardelli Square was making chocolate, and the whole neighborhood smelled like chocolate.
Nice.
I had
Wow.
I'll just tell you, I had one great experience down here. One time, there was a green festival in the city, so I was staying over in the city, and I came down here and I went swimming at night. It was a really dark night, no moon, and I got out in the water, and I was swimming along, and I was looking over at the Ghirardelli Square lights, and I thought, I'm out. Nobody knows I'm here. It was kind of this great feeling. I mean, if anything happened to me, I'm going to drown, and nobody's going to. And you know, and there was somehow a feeling of power, you know. And I went back and took a shower, and you know, felt elated for the rest of the night. I belonged to the club in the 60s when I was working as an insurance broker. And I'd come out here on my lunch hour and run on the beach and go swimming. And then again in the 80s or 90s. Yeah, I love it down here. You know, there used to be if you go to the end here, it's worth it while you're down here. If you go down to beyond the south end and go out on the pier, if you look at there's a linen photograph there of this beach when there was a railroad track along here. In the 70s, you know, it was really easy to live. The 50s were really, 50s, 60s, you could live on very little money. And when I came here in the 1971, a whole bunch of us really started doing things the old way. We tried to make a living selling food, and we were selling goat's milk for $1 a quart, eggs for $1 a dozen, and honey for $1 a pound. And you just couldn't make it back then because people wouldn't pay for organic stuff. But we kind of were looking back at the way our grandparents did things and doing stuff like that. Okay, so here's a little potato seedling. So that's what, and I'll probably just put that back in here and let it do its thing. Get the water boiling before they pick the corn, and then rush in, and you know. And so if you eat a potato that's just out of the garden, it's really different from potatoes you buy in a store. You find potatoes in the store; they could have been sitting around for a year.
The kettle's on. There's some tea out.
Yeah. I realized that. Actually, in having to write something for Substack, I thought, well, what am I doing? And then I thought, well, I'm curious about what's going on in the world, and I see a lot of things when I get out there that I don't think other people see, and that I want to tell people about. And it's almost like as soon as I see something, the wheels are turning. How can I show people what I'm excited about?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm doing now. You know, I'm kind of going to take people along with me riding shotgun. I think I'm a journalist, not professionally, but in my heart, I'm a journalist. And I want to tell people about what I see. Because one of the things that it does is when you travel, it makes traveling, it gives a double meaning to travel if I'm not only seeing it, but I'm going to tell people about it. But there's a caution in there in that, am I really seeing what's going on here, or am I altering it by recording it?
Any reason why you put goldfish in there?
No. I was born in 1935. I think the bridge was completed in 1936. I don't have that many people to talk to now about what things used to be like, but it's that span of time is really interesting. In 1955, I guess I was at Stanford at the time, there were 13 million people in California. Now there's 40 million people. And a friend of mine at one of my high school lunches said, when we were born, there were 5 million people in California. Now there's 8 times that. So we had California all to ourselves when we were growing up. Well, you know, there was a pool in North Beach called the Crystal Palace. Crystal Plunge, not Crystal Palace was out at the beach. I mean, I'm an hour from one of the greatest cities in the world here, you know, and I grew up in San Francisco, and I go over there once a week now. I go to North Beach and go swimming, and I find areas in the city, neighborhoods that are of interest to me. And then when the coach from the Y moved to Marines Memorial, then we started training at the Marines Memorial, and all our swimming events were at Fly Shackers out at the beach.